Is it coming up? Come on, come on. Hello, hello. Got it. Okay.
I can hear you now.
All right, guys. Sounds like we're ready to go. I apologize for that, but Adrian's brilliant. Help me. Once again, he advised me to do that amazing technical feat of turning off my computer and turning it on again. Who else does that when things don't work? After that, I don't know if Adrian had many more suggestions. He did the old turn it off, turn it on, and if that didn't work, he was like, I'm all out. So anyways, today is Monday, and we were doing vocabulary. I hope you guys all did the open houses this weekend and did other things to help grow your real estate career. I put up a great quote on Instagram from Warren Buffett that I think you guys should all read. I really enjoyed reading it. I wanted to share with you guys as it's true. And what he was talking about is being patient. Your success is not going to happen overnight. He used the thing, sometimes you can't rush things. You're not going to get your baby faster by getting 9 women pregnant in a month. You got to wait the 9 months. So I thought that was pretty cool. He's a pretty smart guy. So with that being said, let's get into it. So the first thing on the board says R3. R3. Okay, so what does R3 stand for? Who knows? What is R3? R3 stands for multifamily residential. Multifamily residential. It's a zoning classification. It's a zoning classification. Okay? Zoning is under which of the 4 government powers? Those 4 government powers, zoning falls under one of them. Do you guys know which one? Who here knows which government power zoning falls under? Nice job, Stacy. Stacy's first on the board. Big fist bump for Stacy's store. She says police power, and that is right. So things like zoning and building codes fall under police power. There are 3 other government powers that you need to know in order to pass your real estate exam. What are they? Livu Bolagan, you need to change your settings to 720 HD to have a good image on the screen. I think that's what we're referring to. Everybody make sure you change your settings to 720 HD. So the 4 government powers are police power, eminent domain, taxation, and escheat. Police power, eminent domain, taxation, and escheat. Who here is able to tell me the difference between police power and eminent domain? What is the difference between police power and eminent domain? What is the difference between police power and eminent domain? So police power, they tell you how to use it. Eminent domain, they take it away from you. Does that make sense? A lot of you guys are writing compensation. That's correct because they give you compensations. They took the property away from you. They're not giving you compensation when they tell you how to use it. Remember how we started this conversation with zoning. Okay? Zoning is not taking the property away from you. It's just telling you how you can use it. All right? And you may say, but I bought it as a house. I don't want to have to use it as a cookie store now. Okay, well, what happens then? If you buy it as one thing, and then the zoning law changes years after you buy it, what happens? What do you guys think? And by the way, when they compensate under eminent domain, they do it through something called condemnation. Okay? So what happens if you buy a property as residential, for example, then years later, they change your street to be zoned as commercial? What happens? And obviously, we're talking in terms of the real estate exam. Nice job, Rachel Ford. You could be grandfathered in. That's called a grandfather clause. And you would be granted, everybody ready for this? Drum roll, please. Non-conforming use. You would be grandfathered in, and be issued non-conforming use. Does everybody get that? Now, here's another question for you guys. You buy a property, but you want to petition for something that's an exception to the rule, and if granted that exception, it will not affect anybody else on the street. What is that called? So you buy a property and you want an exception to the rule, but if granted that exception, it will not affect anybody else. That is a variance. Nice job, Alexis, nice job, Alexis. That is called a variance. Who's ever heard that word, granted a variance? Anybody ever heard that before? And these are not state-specific words, everybody. This goes across the board no matter where you are. A variance means the same thing in New York as it does in California, as it does in Texas, as it does in Wisconsin. Okay? Now, the rules on how to apply a variance could change, but we're just talking about definitions of what these words mean. And that's what we like to go over in these webinars, things that apply to everybody. Hello, Arthur. Arthur's in the house. Okay, what is a percentage lease? What is a percentage lease? Who knows? Who's got this one? A percentage lease. What is a percentage lease? What do you guys think? So a percentage lease is when you're paying based upon a percentage of the gross receipts. That means the total money coming in, not the net. Okay, it's based upon the money coming in. Okay. Now there's 3 other types of leases that you need to know when studying for your exam. Who knows what they are? So you have your percentage lease, which is paying based upon the sales coming in. Obviously, that's for commercial properties. But there's 3 other leases that we talk about as you guys study for the exam. A net lease is one, a sandwich lease is the other, and a gross lease is the 4th. Nice job, everybody. So if you haven't heard of this, write this down. You need to understand what a percentage lease, a net lease, a sandwich lease, and a gross lease. Out of those 4 types of leases, which is the most common in a residential property? Out of those 4 types of leases, which of those is the most common in a residential property? What do you guys think? And the answer would be a gross lease. Why is that? Who could define for me what a gross lease is? Who could define for me what a gross lease is, so therefore we know why it is the most common in a residential property? What do you guys, who could define that really nicely for me? Give me a real quick definition. So a gross lease is when you're paying a fixed amount every month. You don't worry about taxes, insurance, things of that nature. For example, you pay $1,000 a month. That's it. It has nothing to do with time. When you guys talk about time, that was talking about things like estate for years, periodic tenancy, estate at will, estate of sufferance, those type of things. That's different. Right now, we're talking about the contract, okay? And a gross lease has a contract where you pay a fixed amount every month. You got it? Right? Got it. Okay, the other one is a net lease. What is a net lease? Who's heard of a net lease before? Who's heard of a net lease? A net lease is when the tenant is paying for things like taxes, insurance, and maintenance. Right, guys? Tax, insurance, maintenance. And finally, we have a sandwich lease. What is a sandwich lease? There's probably a more common term that you guys are familiar with. Okay, what is a sandwich lease? So that is known as a sublease. It is subletting. When you sublet, okay, I want everybody to write this down. The lessor is also the lessee. The lessor is also the lessee. Everybody write that down. The lessor is also the lessee. It's important we use words that we are likely to see on our exam. So the lessor is also the lessee. We all writing that down? It's not necessarily the lessor becomes the lessee. Somebody's playing both roles. So they don't stop one role and become the other. Because they are giving a lease and also receiving one at the same time. Okay, the lessor is also the lessee. Who could tell me the OREE rule? The OREE rule. Who's got that nailed down? The OREE rule. Because that is what I'm referring to with this lessor-lessee bit. Okay, remember our song that you're going to sing while you're taking your exam. No matter how silly it seems, we are going to sing. Lessor, vendor, optionor, grantor, the giver, the proprietor for your pleasure. Lessee, vendee, grantee, optionee, gives me property, makes me happy. Okay? I know it sounds ridiculous, and all you guys may be like, sounds like a fool. But when you guys are taking an exam and you're nervous and you're not sure if it's a trustor or a trustee or mortgagor or mortgagee, and you're sitting here, give or let the OR giving, got it. Okay? You will be thrilled. You'll be sitting there like, man, I got my money's worth. That bald guy with the hat on that screen, good stuff right there. Okay? So when you guys pass, you can remember lessor, vendor, grantor, optionor, giver, proprietor. Lessee, vendee, optionee, gives me property, makes me happy. Okay, so I'm going to ask you guys a tough question. All right, everybody ready for this? Right, ready, if you're ready for a tough question. Okay, right, ready with a big exclamation point. Here's the tough question of the day on a Monday. See who's been studying, who is not. This could come up on your exam and come up in real life for 5,000 points. Okay, what type of contract does the vendor become the lessee? What type of contract does the vendor become the lessee? Do, 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 do. I hope Adrian's singing the Jeopardy music right now. What type of contract does the lessor become the lessee? And the answer is sale lease back. Nice job, everybody. Sale lease back. Sale lease back. In a sale lease back, the vendor becomes the lessee. You sell the property to somebody and you become a tenant of the new owner. Great job, everybody. Do we have any first-timers here today? Is everybody returning? Write down how many webinars you've attended in your life with PrepAgent. If this is your first time, write 1. If it's your 100th time, write 100. And everybody in between. Let's see who's experienced and who's not. Brooke says, first time. Elizabeth, first time. Elizabeth, I hope you enjoy it. We got a lot of first-timers here today. I apologize to the first-timers for my rough start today. A little trouble with audio, but I hope you're enjoying yourself so far. So if you guys are okay, write so far, so good. So far, so good. And I hope everybody writes that. Because I'd like to think so far, so good. Okay. So next one on the board is tenant at sufferance. Tenant at sufferance. What is that? What is a tenant at sufferance? So just now I said, when we're talking about leases, I said, well, that's a different thing. Some of you guys mentioned estate for years. And I said, that's another thing. Well, now we're in the realm of that thing. So what is a tenant at sufferance? So another word for that would be a deadbeat tenant. It's somebody who overstays how long they're contracted to be there. Now, a tenant in sufferance, that is part of what is known as less than freehold estates. What is the difference between a less than freehold estate and a freehold estate? What is the difference between a less than freehold estate and a freehold estate? What do you guys think? Freehold has to do with ownership. Less than freehold has to do with like not owning, basically leasing. Okay? What are the 4 types of less than freehold estates? What are the 4 types of less than freehold estates? Who knows? So you got estate for years, tenancy in common. No, not tenancy in common. Whoops, sorry. Delete that from your mind. Estate for years, periodic tenancy, estate at will, and estate at sufferance, which is the one on the board we're just talking about now. Okay, what is an estate for years? What is an estate for years? Who knows? What is an estate for years? What do you guys think? Estate for years has a defined period of time. So Stacy Stores is date to date. That's great. So it'd be like April 8th to May 1st. Like a beach rental, good is another example. Do you have to give notice, 1 month's notice that you're leaving when you have an estate for years? Do you need to give advance notice of when you're leaving when you have an estate for years? Do you have to tell a landlord, hey, I'm going to be leaving in a month? No, you do not, because you gave that to him the moment the contract started. No notice is needed. Everybody got that? In an estate for a year, no notice is needed because it's already defined. What is periodic tenancy? What is periodic tenancy? What is periodic tenancy? What do you guys think? So that's for a reoccurring period of time, month to month, week to week, could even be year to year. All right, that's a reoccurring period of time, period to period, if you want to think of it like that. Okay, then we get to the 2 types of less than freehold estates where people will get angry and people start suing each other and laws get broken and probably furniture gets ruined, the bad ones. So next one we have is the estate for will, estate at will. What's that one? Estate at will. If estate at will happens, somebody's probably pretty angry and calling their lawyer. Estate at will means somebody could abandon it or somebody could terminate it at any time. Anytime. They just get up and leave. Okay, and the one thing that's worse than an estate at will is estate at sufferance, which we went over before. Okay, so those last 2 is when you get people getting angry. Now, here's a question for you guys. What are you guys going to obtain after you pass? What type of license will it be? You guys are here to get a license. What is that license called? Seems like an obvious question, but I am going somewhere with this. What is that license called? A real estate license, a real estate salesperson's license. You're not going to be a realtor, just to clarify real quick for everybody. Passing your exam will not make you a realtor. Who knows why? Who knows why you will not be a realtor after you pass this exam? This is an important distinction. So a realtor is a trademark term, and after you pass and you sign up with your brokerage, then you will sign up with your local board of realtors if you choose to do so, which most people do. And then you could be designated as a realtor. Does everybody got that? So you pass, you sign up, you're working with a broker, your license is all good to go. So first you get that license, and then you sign up with the board of realtors. And you got to pay a fee and yada, yada, yada. Okay? So back to my question, you will get a real estate license, a real estate license. Some of you get a real estate salesperson's license, some of you get a real estate broker's license, et cetera, whatever it is, it's a real estate license. My question to you is, why do they call it a real estate license? Why don't they call it a house sales license, a property sales license, a land sales license? Why do they call it a real estate sales license? What do you guys think? Why is it not called a land salesperson's license? What do you guys think? And that's the question of the day. Why do they call it a real estate license? Okay, so first, you're dealing with real property. Okay, and what is real property? What is real property? So real property is the land and all things that go with it. Things that are generally speaking immovable. Is real property always immovable? Is real property always immovable? I see a lot of you guys running immovable, but be very careful. Is real property always immovable? Oh, the answer is no. So you guys are scaring me when you write immovable. If you do that, that's fine. Generally speaking, that's correct, but there are exceptions. Rachel Ford nailed it. She wrote a pool cover is an example of real property, and that is not immovable. You move that thing every time you want to take a dip in the pool. Okay? So real property is generally immovable. So you have real. Now, what about that estate part? What about that estate part? So you're getting a real estate license. So what is that second word, estate? What does that mean? What does estate mean? What do you guys think? So estate has to do with ownership for a designated period of time. So that's why these two words are combined, all right? And I know many of you guys probably don't think about it. You're just like, that's what it's called. I don't know, whatever. It's what it is. But if you understand why it's called that, not only will it sound smart when you're having a drink with a client, you can throw that fact out there whenever you want to sound super intelligent, all right? But also it'll help you pass your exam, okay? So the real has to do with things that go with the land. The estate part has to do with duration of ownership. You combine them and you get your real estate license, your real estate salesperson's license, real estate broker's license, etc., etc. How many of you guys just had a light bulb go off in your head and you're like, well, that makes sense. I hear this term all the time, but that makes a lot of sense. How many of you guys never really thought of that before? Hopefully I kind of shed a light on it that'll help you guys pass. Oh, man. Okay, I just passed the word executory. Can you guys give me an example of an executory contract? What does executory mean? Executory. So executory means it has not yet been performed. Okay, and now we're on the word encumbrance. Encumbrance. What is an encumbrance? Who could tell me what is an encumbrance? By the way, if you guys are insecure, unsure, if you just started studying, or maybe this stuff is not easy for you, please do not be afraid to participate in the chat. We get a lot of people participating who've been studying a lot, who've been working at this for a little while, or just it comes easy to them. And we want to hear from those people, but we also want to hear from the people who are struggling, okay? Can we all agree to that? We've been doing these webinars for a long time now, and it's always been a positive group. People are very supportive with each other. So can we all write that we agree that if people are insecure, participate, please, step up. This is not a live class, so if you say something dumb, nobody's going to be looking at you and be like, oh my God, they're so stupid. And if they are right now, they're behind a computer, so who cares? Okay? So now if somebody says something stupid, we can make all the faces we want because we don't see each other. So don't be afraid to participate. You're in a safe zone. Okay, everybody agree? Everybody, I agree. We're all pretty supportive. Okay, so an encumbrance limits something on the property, right? It limits, okay, your ability to enjoy the property. Can you guys give me an example of an encumbrance? Can you guys give me an example of an encumbrance? An easement would be an example of encumbrance. A lien, great examples of encumbrance. They both burden the property. Good. Excellent job, everybody. I'm feeling good today. Do you guys feel like we got a good vibe today? I feel like there's a good energy. Everybody's participating in the chat. We don't got any negative people in the chat. I feel like this is a great group today. Sometimes we do this and we get some people writing some weird stuff in the chat. Somebody once wrote they wanted to know where my house was because they wanted to come to me and study in my home. And I was like, creepy. Wee, 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 wee. But everybody here seems pretty great. How many of you guys are like, ooh, I was totally going to ask him to do that. I guess I won't now. Okay, voidable. What is voidable? Voidable. Voidable is something that can be rescinded. Something that can be rescinded. Does a voidable contract have all four essentials of a valid contract? Thank you, Ashley. Does a voidable contract have all four essentials of a valid contract? Yes, it does. If it did not have all four essentials, it would be void. It would be void. Everybody understand that? A voidable contract does have all four essentials, but it can be rescinded. It can be rescinded. Everybody got that? If it does not have all four essentials, it would be void. Okay? What are the four essentials of a valid contract? What are the four essentials of a valid contract? Who could give me the four essentials of a valid contract? So Veronica, stud is the four essential elements of value, okay? And that's scarcity, transferability, utility, demand. That's something different. Ashley, a COLD is for the essentials of an agency, which is accountability, confidentiality, obedience, and loyalty and disclosure. But now we're trying to get the 4 essentials of a valid contract, okay? And that would be offered acceptance, consideration, lawful object, and capable parties. Offer and acceptance can also be phrased as mutual consent or agreement. All those would work, okay? Now, does a contract need to be in writing for it to be valid? Do all contracts, and the key word here is all right, all. Do all contracts need to be in writing? What do you guys think? And the answer is no. But if a contract does need to be in writing and it is not, does that make the contract void? If a contract needs to be in writing, but it is not in writing, does that make the contract void? And the answer is no. What does that make the contract? This is a tough question. Marta Grissom nailed it. That makes the contract unenforceable. And that is the key difference. Unenforceable contracts still have the 4 essentials of a valid contract. It just makes it unenforceable. And as some of you guys wrote, that alludes to the statute of frauds. The statute of frauds. And that is the key difference between unenforceable and void. Void lacks the 4 essentials. Unenforceable has the 4 essentials, but for one element or another, like it needs to be in writing and it's not, or there's a time limit that's been expired, okay, then it's unenforceable. Okay, everybody got that? Who got confused with unenforceable and void before? Hopefully now you guys know the difference. So, all right, so that's it for today, guys. It was Monday. Today went well. I'm pretty happy with it. Hopefully we'll do well tomorrow as also, and that is tomorrow at 4 o'clock California time, Pacific time. Don't want to leave out the people in Washington and Oregon. And it will be 11, no, I just messed it up. 9 o'clock Pacific time, 11 o'clock Central time, 12 o'clock East Coast time. Getting all finagled in my head. Okay, everybody, have a great day. See you tomorrow.